Hey there everybody, I am back with another animal facts video. This time I have with me Arthur, who is an Argus monitor. Argus monitors are this awesome species of monitor from northern Australia and parts of New Guinea. They're actually the third largest species of monitor in Australia behind the lace monitor, and I actually can't remember what the other one was. But there's tons of cool monitor species all throughout the subcontinent of Asia, which is Southeast Asia, some of the islands like Indonesia, and then of course Australia. And then of course we also find lots of monitors throughout Africa. Now, one of the biggest ways to tell the difference between a monitor when you first look at them, if trying to debate is it from Africa or is it from Asia, is actually just kind of looking at the body shape. So typically Asian monitors tend to have very sleek, long bodies, these very narrow, long snouts and long necks. Whereas African species more often tend to have very, very stout bodies, very, very thick necks and jowls, and just kind of look like a little bit frumpy. Now, most monitor species like this are well adapted to go on pretty much any type of terrain. For the most part, an Argus monitor, also known as a yellow-spotted monitor, is going to be spending its time mainly living on the ground, digging burrows underneath trees and rocks while it looks for things like insects, small mammals, lizards, and snakes. But they're also well adapted to climbing, where they'll go up and they'll eat birds and bird eggs and go up into the trees and dive into tree holes. But they also are very, very good swimmers. So when we look at a monitor like this, we notice they have an exceptionally long tail. Now, this tail helps with several things. Part of it is they use it for defense. When they get really, really wound up and feel like they're going to be preyed upon, they'll take this tail and actually whip it, and they'll snap it like a whip at whatever's coming at them, enough to actually cut people open. They can also use it for balance, being that they're going to be climbing up in trees and everything. This kind of helps, almost like a tight walker's balance pole. It helps them keep their balance along branches. And then when they're in water, it actually acts kind of like a motor and a rudder. They can flick it really, really easily, and it just pushes them right through the water. And when they do that, they typically tuck their front arms down and kind of streamline themselves a little bit, and then just fly through the water catching fish or other small invertebrates. They can get a little bit wound up, but like I've pointed out with other reptiles, once you feel like they're not that much of a threat, like they're going to do anything like trying to bite you or tail whip you or anything like that, typically what you can do is kind of go a little bit of a looser grip on them, and this then allows them to feel a little bit safer. And when I have a monitor like this in my hand, I don't feel like it's going to be a big threat to me, or I know really can't do a whole lot of damage. What I tend to do is just kind of hold them up a little bit so that they feel a little bit more comfortable, basically so that they can survey the land around them, realize that there's no real threats or anything going on. He has scratched me up a little bit, but really it's not that bad. You can do things like trim his nails, or what I like to do in enclosures is actually put some rock down, allow them to scratch their nails across the rock and trim them down on their own. But for the most part, they take care of everything on their own. They're very, very good hunters. As I mentioned, they'll eat all kinds of different invertebrates, eggs, birds, lizards, things like that. In captivity, we primarily feed them invertebrates. I focus a lot on cockroaches. I also do a lot of earthworms, fresh eggs, and then for my Savannah monitor at home, I actually cut up pieces of chicken. I give them chicken instead of things like mice and rats. A lot of people tend to overfeed on rodents in captivity with these animals, and what happens is they develop a lot of weight issues. So they can get fatty liver and kidney disease, more prone to tumors, and just general overweightness, which then starts to wreak havoc on their bones and their joints and their muscles. So it's good to keep these guys on a really, really lean diet. And I like to watch them hunt. It's good for them. It's a natural enrichment thing, which we've discussed enrichment before, is something that stimulates an animal mentally and physically. So by putting live food in there that's going to move around, it's going to give him the ability to have to actually go sniff them out, which he's going to do with that long tongue if he actually decides to flick it out at you at all. There it goes. But they do get very, very calm after they're used to you. Monitors, like a lot of other larger lizards, can become very social. You can learn to target train them. They can harness train, do A to B training. Argus monitors are one of my favorites because they do this thing called tripoding or meerkatting, where basically if they think there's danger, they can stand up, on their hind legs, use their tail as like an anchor, and then they like literally look up and they like look around for food. He's never done that for us in captivity because he's never felt the need to. But he is getting more used to being handled. He's been out for quite a bit now, just so like we could get him acclimated to some of our employees here. Also try to harness with him, which worked out for a little bit. But I started to notice some things, like he likes his jaw rubbed. So he'll sit there and do this, and you see he closes his eye, and he actually pushes his jaw into my finger. So then at that point I can kind of go underneath him a little bit, get his jaw rubbed a little bit more. And this kind of helps build a bond between me and him. He's realizing now that I'm not a predator, I'm not any kind of threat. And then when I can do things to him that like he like quote unquote feels good, as much as you want to anthropomorphize how much feelings a lizard has, he does seem to get some type of enjoyment out of it. I can feel his body loosen up, loosens up his grip a little bit, and then when I stop, he gets a little bit curious. So there you have it. That's an Argus monitor, again, also known as a yellow spotted monitor from Northern Australia. And hope you guys learned a little bit about them. I know they're one of my new favorite monitors. It's my first time actually really getting to raise one and deal with them, although I've dealt with plenty of other monitor species before, including Komodos. I'm always interested in learning more about varanids and getting to interact with new ones. So hope you guys enjoyed him, and we'll see you next time.